In the 18th century, many people from Britain decided to settle into North America. These colonists built off of the English government and created their own.
The traditions of liberty began when the colonists wanted a way to govern themselves, since Britain was too far away to solve day-to-day problems.
In the beginning, it started with a simple town meeting, influenced by representative government. Later, it became a more complex system when legislators, voting rules, and a governor were made in the colonies.
The Great Awakening was a period of religious revival in which colonists realized they could choose how they worship their God. They also concluded that they could also choose how they govern themselves.
The freedom of the press also helped develop liberty in the colonies, stating that public media can publish articles believed to be accurate. Today, the freedom of press is recognized as one of the most fundamental American liberties.
The Enlightenment helped affect the ideas of government due to two people, John Locke and Baron de Montesquieu.
Both John Locke and Baron de Montesquieu challenged the idea of divine rights. Locke believed that everyone had natural rights, including liberty, property, and life. He also argued that people form government to protect these rights, and due to this, people can change their government. Montesquieu believed that the government should be divided into three branches, so there wouldn't be a Supreme Court. The three branches include the judicial branch to make judgments, the legislative branch to make laws, and the executive branch to enforce them. There were 7 main acts that imposed on the colonists liberty, which included the Proclamation Act of 1763, the Quartering Act, the Stamp Act, the Townshend Act, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, and the Intolerable Act. The colonists were forced to follow all these acts, or they would be punished. Because all these acts violated the colonists' natural rights, it caused a lot of unrest throughout the colonies. For example, during the Intolerable Act in 1774, the king took away the colonists' representative government, which violated the Magna Carta. Another example would be the Quartering Act in 1765, where the king forced many colonists to lodge soldiers.
The British Acts also violated their natural rights and benefited Britain only because they were using colonists' resources and not giving anything back.
In January 1776, Thomas Paine wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense. Because he used powerful and convincing words, the colonists started to support the idea of independence.
Thomas Paine's book, Common Sense, was influenced by Enlightenment ideas. It used logic to express the idea of independence.
The Declaration of Independence was influenced by many British traditions. For example, the colonists accused the king for not respecting their rights. The colonists also accused the king for not following the Magna Carta.
The Declaration of Independence used British traditions like the Magna Carta, stating that there was no taxation without representation.
The Revolutionary War began when patriots prepared for war due to the anger of the British acts and Minutemen reform. After the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the Revolutionary War began, with George Washington the head of the Continental Army. The war lasted for about 8 years until the Treaty of Paris, and the Americans were victorious with the help of the French. There were many events that led to the American victory, but the 3 main battles that defined their conquest in the Revolutionary War were the battles in Lexington and Concord, the battles of Saratoga, and the victory at Yorktown. The battle in Lexington and Concord was the battle that marked the start of the American Revolution. 700 British soldiers had marched towards Lexington when they were met by Minutemen. After 2 brief battles in Concord and Lexington, 273 British were dead by the end of the day. The Battle of Saratoga was a turning point in the war. The Continental soldiers and the British general John Burgoyne's army had fought, and Burgoyne's army, outnumbered and cut off, surrendered on October 17, 1777. This convinced the French to join the Revolutionary War, which helped the Americans greatly in both supplies and force. The Battle of Yorktown occurred in the fall of 1781. This was the battle that made General Cornwallis, who led the British, surrender. The Treaty of Paris was passed in 1782 after the loss of Cornwallis's army, which convinced Britain to meet with 3 of the American representatives in Paris. The treaty recognized Americans' independence and set its boundaries. The war ended, but the American Revolution also inspired the citizens in other parts of the world like France and Latin America, making it have a lasting impact on the world.